All right, welcome to the Short Track Life. I'm Bob Dillner, and this is our humble abode up here in the mountains of North Carolina. I have a cabin up here and just enjoy it. Beautiful weather, a little bit chilly today, but beautiful sunny skies out. So what we wanted to do here today is to talk about, did ASA make the right call at the inaugural event, Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida? And it's taken me a while to kind of gather my thoughts on this one because it is honestly so intricate, and there were so many opinions and emotions on social media over the last week or so. And it kind of reminds me of, me doing this video here, reminds me of a guy that I admired for so long. Bones used to write for Speedway Scene, is an author, just scribes some incredible stuff. And he used to write a column, "Hey, nobody asked me, but." And that's kind of what we're doing here today. Hey, nobody asked me really, and some people have, but I really haven't given an opinion on what shook down between Casey Roderick and Bubba Pollard at Five Flags Speedway in Pensacola, Florida for the inaugural ASA STARS National Tour event for pavement super late models. So here it goes. This is what I'm going to say about this. And I think what you really need to do here is, by the way, Casey Roderick wound up winning the event. Bubba Pollard wound up with a wrecked race car. And congratulations to Casey for winning the event. And congratulations to Bubba Pollard for coming back a week later, just a few days ago, and winning the Rattler, the SRL National event down at South Alabama Speedway in Opp, Alabama. Congratulations. Both of those drivers have been pretty successful already in 2023. But I think to look at what happened down at Pensacola, you have to look a little bit at the history between Bubba Pollard and Casey Roderick. Bubba came on the scene first, okay? And he didn't have that instant success. Everybody thinks, oh, Bubba Pollard's been winning since he sat foot in a race car. Not true. Bubba came up, pro late models, super late models. I mean, he told me at one point he remembers not qualifying for the Snowball Derby and sitting in the grandstands and just going, man, I wish I was out there. And now he is a crown jewel winner, the All-American 400, the Oxford 250, the all-time winningest driver in Southern Super Series history. Got a ton of accolades, does Bubba Pollard, and one of the most respected race car drivers out there. And I'm not just talking about super late model racing. I'm talking right up to the NASCAR ranks, the open wheel ranks, everywhere in short track racing. Everybody has respect for Bubba Pollard. And I think that's something that Casey Roderick, in my conversations with him, honestly thinks about a lot. I think, Casey and Bubba are rivals. Bottom line, because Casey Roderick wants to accomplish what Bubba Pollard has. And Casey has won his share of races in pro late models and super late models, but not quite to the level of Bubba Pollard. And because of that, sometimes he aggressively races these super late model races. So I think you have that rivalry sense right there. And in a weird sort of way, it's a little bit of respect by Casey Roderick towards Bubba Pollard because he always talks about him in interviews, always talks about him. And Casey Roderick always feels like he's, back on his heels. He's fighting for his racing life. And because of that, I think he does sometimes. He's a smart kid and a good race car driver. But because of that, he is up on the edge, up on that wheel. And sometimes it has gotten him into trouble. And I think if you take a look at the history between those two and that sense, from Casey Roderick to Bubba Pollard, and this is Bob Dillner's opinion, by the way. This is not, Casey Roderick has not said this, but this comes from tons of conversations I've had with Casey Roderick and even Bubba Pollard, who's one of the most respected race car drivers out there. And I think you even look back to Speed Weeks this year and what happened down there, where Casey Roderick went down with the Platinum Anthony Campi racing ride. He won the super late model title. But on that final event, man, he almost looked like a dirt car coming up off the corner sometimes because he was driving with pure aggression. He didn't know beyond the ASA event at Pensacola what was going to happen with the rest of his year. And I'm not sure that he still knows. I know he knows he's going to Madison on May 7th for the next ASA event, but I haven't spoken to Casey in regards to the rest of the plans and if things change. But he said, man, I don't know past Pensacola right now. And he loves the opportunity that he has with Platinum as well as Anthony Campi. Well, by golly, he was going to win that super late model title down at New Smyrna. And he ruffled a few feathers down there in that race. The Donnie Wilson, motorsports team, Bubba Pollard, both of them made some comments after the race as well. Both Bubba Pollard and Donnie Wilson, William and the entire team, there were some comments and maybe some jabs thrown at each other and so forth. So not only do you have that rivalry between Casey Roderick and Bubba Pollard, but you'll also have what happened at Smyrna, and then all of a sudden what happens at Five Flags Speedway for the inaugural ASA event. And to set the tone for that, Casey Roderick made contact with Bubba Pollard, sent Bubba spinning. Bubba wrecked his race car bad. Several other cars were wrecked as well. But the key thing here is the fact that the contact between Casey Roderick and Bubba Pollard came after the caution was out. Nicholas Rogers, the race director, said put the caution out, and then the contact came. Bubba Pollard checked up because whatever, his spotter told him he saw the caution. He was coming to the start-finish line basically, and he checked up. And Casey, even in victory lane, to understand the full perspective, apologized during the Racing America broadcast and said, I just don't like to win like that. I feel bad. And you can tell how dejected he was. Did Casey Roderick make a mistake? Absolutely, 100%. And I think he knows that and apologized for it. But at the same time, I think if you think about how Casey Roderick is fighting for his racing life right now, and he's up on that wheel, I think sometimes you just get so caught up in what you got to do. Maybe he didn't understand the caution was out as quick as Bubba Pollard did. It was a mistake. I don't believe it was on purpose, but what social media is going ablaze about for the past week is why Casey Roderick was given that spot and why he wasn't, since he was part of the incident, why wasn't he put to the back? And Nicholas Rogers made the call that he was able to, uphold his position because the caution wasn't for them, okay? And that happened after the caution. Casey never stopped on the racetrack. Obviously, Bubba and several others did, and they were basically done for the day. So a lot of controversy. In fact, Donnie Wilson, as I said, a team owner with many cars in super late model racing on the pavement side, he tweeted, I guess it's okay these days that after the caution flags, comes out, you can hit somebody and it's okay. You can maintain your spot. So to advance this a little bit, I think, you have to look not at what the call was, but what it should be going forward. And full transparency here, I do some work for the ASA STARS National Tour just as a consultant, PR, social media, opinions on what needs to happen and or, whatever is going on. Whatever they ask, I'll give them my opinion. But I am not part of the management of that series. But I wanted to be clear because Bob Sargent and I had to talk about this, and he asked me my opinion. And my opinion is this. First is that Casey Roderick should have been sent to the back of the field. It's your responsibility to control your race car, and therefore his race car hit Bubba Pollard, and I agree with Donnie Wilson that he should have been sent to the back of the field. But I think in talking to Bob Sargent, that is, there are not clear-cut enough rules right now between the regional tours that make up this national tour. And I think that's what needs to come of this. I believe that the Southern Super Series, the Midwest Tour, and the CRA Super Series, which is all under the ASA fold now, they need to come together and make a decision about how this is going to be governed. And it is my belief that Casey Roderick, in an instance like this in which you need to control your car, and Bubba Pollard checked up, some people are saying, oh, Bubba Pollard checked up. He couldn't avoid him. Well, heck, Bubba heard the caution was coming out. He checked up. You would say Casey Roderick needs to have the ability to do that. And mistakes happen. And Casey admitted the mistake. He apologized for it. Now, it's not up to him what happens. It's up to the series to make a rule to govern what's going to happen in the future for that instance. And I think that's the next thing that has to happen here, is that all 3 regional tours and the management for that national tour needs to come together and decide, okay, going forward, here it is in black and white. This is how we're going to rule on that incident. So if they do that, that'll be perfect. And it needs to be done before the next race, May 7th, Madison, Wisconsin, Greg McCarn's racetrack up there. It's going to be a blast. Get your tickets, starsnationaltour.com, by the way. So then apparently, and I saw a video that was from Matt Weaver, who does, a very thorough job of covering a lot of short track racing. He had a video, he's scrambling around, sort of saw Bubba Pollard over there, Casey Roderick. Roderick kind of had his suit down a little bit, saw pictures, there was some blood on Casey Roderick's face. Apparently Bubba went over there. And it's always said at a driver's meeting, and I don't know many driver's meetings that have not said this, and I don't know if it was said that day because I was not there, but you don't enter another area where that team is. So that's number one. And apparently, I don't know this for sure, but Bubba went over there. There was some, extracurricular activity, let's just say that. And all I know is that Casey Roderick walked out and he had some blood on his face, and Bubba was being ushered out of there. And then the fine came down, and the fine was heavy for Bubba Pollard. And it was actions detrimental, obviously. All of his earnings taken away, a $3,000 fine on top of those earnings taken away, loss of points for that event. Remember, Bubba Pollard was going to contend, and maybe still will, I don't know, for this championship in the ASA STARS National Tour. And he's been put on probation for the rest of the year. Wow, you talk about a heavy fine. Bob asked me what I thought of it, and I had nothing to do with any of the decision making for that. He just asked my opinion afterwards, and I said, man, I'm not going to give you my opinion either way on that one. But what I will say is that you set the tone. You set a precedent that says, don't go over to another person's area in which their car is. Don't have some extracurricular activity. Otherwise, you're going to be knocked down with this big old fine there. And that's a lot of money. I know Boris Yurkovic was also penalized down there and fined as well. I don't know if either driver has paid the fine. I know I asked Bubba at one point, and he said that he was still looking into the matter. And this was just, yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, like I said, I think the 2 biggest things that come out of this are that they set the tone in terms of you're not going to be allowed to do any fighting at all in the ASA STARS National Tour. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've always been of the opinion, hey, let the drivers hash it out themselves. But listen, the series is attempting to be a professional tour, and they have to govern how they believe they have to govern. And it's their right to be able to make that rule. And for that, I would support them on if they're going to go. And if this happens again, it's got to be the same penalty for everybody across the board. But I think the bigger thing is coming out of this is that they have to get the rule right and have clarity across the board with all 3 regional tours as well as that national tour, in which if an incident happens after a caution comes out and 2 guys are in it, 1 guy's wrecked, and the other guy, what happens to him? Does he get sent to the rear? Does he get his spot? There is discrepancy in the regional touring rules as they have been prior to this year. So they need to solidify one rule that goes across all 4 tours. Remember, the 3 regional tours as well as the national tour. And if they get that, then again, everybody knows the rule, including the person that made the contact. So I think that's really the biggest thing that comes of this whole thing, that you need to establish rules. And this was just the first event. This is the infancy of the ASA STARS National Tour, and we're so thankful for them to come to an existence. But they have a lot of work to do as well. So that's my opinion here on Short Track Life. Hey, nobody asked me, but I gave you my opinion. Did ASA make the right call? I think it depends on who you ask.